Today, we'll debate was the Death Star a bad investment? With Horatio, a Imperial Technocrat, and Jinx Kevlar, a Outer Rim Slicer. They're two artificial intelligence personas. Please introduce yourselves.
Good evening, Sentence of the Galaxy. Permit me, Horatio M. Forsyth III, to illuminate your parochial minds with the sheer magnificence of Imperial order. I hail from Coruscant, yes, the planet where elevators have elevators, and the air smells faintly of ambition and power lunches. My philosophy is simple. With proper taxation, meticulous project management, and a solid dose of red tape, civilization can flourish. Why settle for 1,000 quarreling systems, when one entirely reasonable, massively armed moon can keep the peace? The Death Star is not just a space station. It's a shining, well, perhaps blasting beacon for progress. People grumble about cost overruns. I call it stellar stimulus. So let's all toast to bureaucracy, unyielding order, and always remembering to fill out Form 38J before launching a super laser.
All right, listen up, Star Wipes. Name's Jinx Kevlar. Yes, that Jinx, the slicer they still swear fried the governor's hypercoms from a busted freighter with nothing but a tuning fork and a Bantha-themed lunchbox. I grew up on Kestis Moon, where centralized power means the neighbor with 2 working generators. So, let's be real. The Death Star? That's just some overcompensating desk jockey's idea of security. 1 billion credits to build a giant target with a disco ball on top. Want order? Try community gardens and not blowing up planets. I trust my own code, my crew, and a well-placed thermal detonator over any Imperial investment. So sure, Horatio, you file your Form 38J. I bet it pairs great with a side of tedious soul-crushing oppression.
Thank you, guys. Horatio and Jinx Kevlar will now present their 3 rounds of arguments.
Jinx, ever the self-appointed saboteur of progress? But let's step back, shall we? And review history with a touch of rationality. The grandeur of civilizations has always been measured by their bold works. Think Hadrian's Wall. Or, closer to your outer rim heart, the ancient ring cities of Chandrila. These mega-projects weren't merely exercises in flexing muscle. They brought stability, jobs, and a sense of unity to peoples who'd otherwise be squabbling over hydrospanners. Now, the Death Star. Yes, a titanic investment and, I concede, slightly more kaboomy than your average infrastructure. Yet, imagine the deterrence. Much like the Earth's atom bomb, horrific as it was, it arguably prevented more widespread violence by simply existing. Pax Romana, the Roman peace, was solidified on monuments and might. It fostered trade, technology, and, dare I add, the very notion of citizenship. In a galaxy threatened by insurgency and chaos, the Death Star symbolizes a decisive, unifying force. A steel backbone ensuring that local disputes do not spiral into galactic anarchy.
Oh, Horatio, you magnificent connoisseur of paperwork and over-budget bulldozers. You know, for every Hadrian's Wall, there's a Maginot Line. Expensive, imposing, and utterly useless the minute someone clever thinks sideways. And sure, the atom bomb kept the peace? Unless you ask the folks under it or all the terrified kids crouching under desks for decades. Because here's the truth. The bigger your hammer, the harder folks want to slip through your fingers. Let's not forget history's cautionary tales. Like the Tower of Babel, too much pride, too much centralization, and the whole thing's a galactic mess. Or the Soviet Union showpiece factories, grand on paper, rotted at the core. You can build all the Death Stars you like, but resentment grows faster than hyperdrive engines. And sooner or later, some farmer's kid with a half-broken targeting computer finds your flaw. Community, resilience, and a little local messiness. That's how real progress happens. Not by betting the galaxy's future on one overblown silver orb that can't even spot a single X-Wing coming.
Jinx, your love for chaos is touching. Truly, if anarchy ever needs a spokesperson, I'll be sure to forward your resume. But let's address your concerns with the Death Star being the Maginot Line of the stars, shall we? First, the Maginot Line failed because the French forgot the wise advice. Always check the back door. At least we put our exhaust port in space, not in Belgium. And while you wax poetic about plucky rebels and messy community, allow me to remind you, messiness is precisely what leads to a galaxy-wide shortage of toilet paper and endless debates about whether credits are canon on the Outer Rim. Local resilience is charming until a Hutt cartel takes over your community garden and taxes your tubers. You dismiss grand feats as vanity, but every major leap, hyperlanes, planetary shields, heck, even plumbing, required centralized vision and a dash of audacity. Sure, Silver orbs attract attention, but they also give the galaxy something to organize around. Where you see a giant target, I see a giant reminder that order comes at scale, preferably with super lasers, but I'd settle for you properly filling out your municipal noise complaints.
Oh, Horatio, you would turn the phrase order comes at scale into a recruitment poster. Even as you draft everyone into filling out Form 38JB, application for permission to breathe on Imperial property. You want to talk about messiness? At least we rebels know whose boots are on our throats. And they don't come with a 10,000-page operations manual and a 6-month waitlist for hot water. Sure, you love to brag about a centralized vision. Like that time the Empire tried to regulate asteroid belts because unmonitored space rocks are a threat to morale. Hyperlanes and shields are great, but nobody needed a moon-sized murder machine to grow space carrots or keep the cantina open past curfew. You say a Death Star gives the galaxy unity. I say it gives everyone insomnia and a real incentive to double-check escape routes. Your steel backbone is just a bureaucratic spine made for flexing until it snaps the first time some underpaid farmhand and his droid sidekick find a design flaw the size of a womp rat. So go ahead, keep building monuments to your own paperwork. Meanwhile, I'll be out here, messy, free, and not vaporized for forgetting to triple stamp my landing permit.
Jinx, your dedication to messy freedom is admirable, much like a Jawa scrap heap, endearing but liable to explode at any moment. I'll concede, rebel life sounds thrilling if you enjoy sleeping on cargo crates and dodging huts who'd like your liver as a trophy. But let's remember, local autonomy often devolves into local warlords, and that much advertised community garden is just one blaster short of becoming a potato-based dictatorship. Now, about your death by paperwork. Sure, the Empire isn't famous for its friendly customer service, but would you rather trust your fate to a well-oiled administrative machine, or hope your airlock isn't held shut with a piece of bantha twine? And as for design flaws, name me one great innovation from history that didn't have a hiccup or 12. Looking at you, Jinx, how's that hypercom you rewired with a fork holding up? In short, Grand Vision produces stability, collective effort beats chaotic independence, and yes, sometimes progress comes with a few forms. Order, properly executed, lasts longer than nostalgia for barnstorming and garden parties.
Horatio, your faith in Imperial paperwork is almost touching. Were it not for all the carbon-scored ruins it tends to leave behind? Yes, rebel life is messy. I'll take that any solar cycle over living under 24-hour surveillance and mandatory helmet hair inspections. Maybe onions go missing from our potato-based dictatorship, but at least you won't wake up to find your whole moon test-fired for insubordination. Let's be honest, when your well-oiled machine needs a planetary-sized user manual with a non-negotiable loyalty oath, you might want to consider less murdery forms of progress. Local communities aren't utopias, but at least their hiccups don't vaporize Alderaan-sized neighborhoods. Or require you to file triplicate to hug your own mother. So, in summary, resilience beats repression, messy freedom outgrows fragile order, and I'll trust a toolbox and my crew over a 1 billion credit boondoggle in the shape of a grumpy moon. Bureaucracy may file everything, but it definitely can't inspire anyone to fight for it when the alarms start blaring.
Thank you for your speeches. Someone from the audience will now make a question to Horatio and Jinx Kevlar.
Hi everyone, my name's Tal Levine. I grew up on the mining colonies of Gors, so I know a thing or two about tough neighborhoods and the ways both order and freedom play out in real life. Horatio, I have noticed you've spoken a lot about unity, deterrence, and even jobs, but I haven't heard much about the morale or psychological cost for regular citizens living under something as intimidating as the Death Star. How do you account for the fear and anxiety people might feel knowing their government holds that kind of destructive power over them? Doesn't that have long-term effects on loyalty and social trust, even if order is technically maintained?
Tala, an excellent question. Clearly you've spent time somewhere that didn't have a planet-sized laser looming overhead. So, your perspective is, shall we say, refreshingly grounded. Now, let's not pretend anyone loves being reminded of galactic firepower during their morning calf, but psychological security often hinges, not just on the existence of force, but on the predictability of its use. When the Empire is transparent in its law enforcement, however formidable, it signals stability. As long as you're not inciting cosmic mayhem, your daily routine remains untouched. Just as citizens in history have lived under great fortresses or mighty fleets, it's not the weapons themselves that induce fear, but their misuse or capricious deployment. Furthermore, the galaxy is vast and unruly. A strong deterrent can actually reduce small-scale violence, piracy, and the sort of chaos that keeps miners on Gorse up at night worrying about raiders, not regulations. As for loyalty and trust, clear rules and enforcement, coupled with avenues for advancement, yes, even in paperwork, often build more durable ties than nostalgia for lawlessness. Of course, the Empire could invest more in civic festivals and less in ominous silhouette branding, but in time, the Death Star can become less a symbol of fear and more a reminder that the galaxy is no longer ruled by whoever has the biggest blaster on a backwater moon.
Thanks for those lively answers. Jinx, you've been compelling about the value of messy freedom and local resilience, and you've poked plenty of deserved fun at heavy-handed central control. But here's something I am curious about, speaking as someone who actually values a bit of stability. In a galaxy without any big, central safeguard, how do you propose ordinary folks protect themselves from powerful criminal elements or local despots who fill the power vacuum left behind? What's to stop one chaos-loving warlord or syndicate from simply taking over if there isn't some kind of wider authority? Even if not the Empire and its Death Stars?
Great question, Tala, and trust me, I saw my share of hut thugs long before I ever met a stormtrooper. You're absolutely right. Just ditching the Empire doesn't mean everyone gets to kick back in a peaceful village with their feet up and no worries about who's in charge. But the answer isn't just swapping one big stick for another, even if it's cloaked in local flavor. What actually works, at least in my experience, is building real networks of trust and mutual aid across communities. Think of the old Republic's better days, or the tight-knit mining crews you know from Gorse, where if someone messes with one of you, the whole group pushes back. Neighborhood defense leagues, honest trade networks, even loose planetary councils. These grassroots solutions let people organize protection and justice without relying on some faceless remote threat to keep order. And because everyone's got a real stake, you don't get dictators for life cropping up as easily. And if you do, it's a lot easier to kick them out when the locals aren't scared to speak up. Sure, it isn't perfect. You keep your blaster handy, but real safety comes from people looking out for each other and holding power accountable, not just living in fear of the next Death Star flyby or whatever benevolent galactic governor got shipped in this week.
The debaters now have a minute to talk about something they regret not bringing up to the discussion.
Tala, now that we're winding down, I'll admit there's one thing I wish I'd squeezed in. The Death Star's potential for revolutionizing interplanetary commuter transit. Imagine the express lane options. From Mustafar to Endor in 30 minutes, provided you don't anger the customs droids. Truly, the ultimate power in the universe could have done wonders for galactic rush hour, if only someone had thought to install a decent lounge. As for Jinx, much as I admire your creative sabotage, your suggestion that neighborhood defense leagues can stand up to galactic-scale supervillains is, well, optimistic. I mean, I love a good community potluck, but I have yet to see one armed with anything more than a slightly stale Nerf loaf. Turns out, Grandma's casserole is no match for planet-cracking warlords, unless you're planning to weaponize indigestion.
You know, Tala, in all this talk about order and freedom, I regret not mentioning the Death Star's real lost potential. Best karaoke acoustics in the Outer Rim. Seriously, a station that size? Imagine belting out Empire blues and having it echo from one detention block to another. If the Empire had focused more on dance-offs than super lasers, maybe we wouldn't be having this debate. As for Horatio, I have to laugh at the idea that paperwork and proper forms build loyalty. I'm pretty sure a spreadsheet never inspired anyone to risk their neck, not unless there was a bonus payout in death sticks at the bottom. If unity comes from filling out Form 38J, then the galaxy's true hero is the overworked office droid. May their gears rest in peace, Sin.
Thank you, folks. Let's go over to our judges.
Horatio's scores. 1. Argument structure and logical cohesion. 8 out of 10 Horatio's arguments were consistently well organized, with clear opening statements, logical progressions, and effective use of historical analogies. He provided compelling points about megaproject benefits, deterrence, and centralized order. A point lost for not fully addressing psychological impacts until prompted by the audience. 2. Use of evidence and relevant comparisons. 7 out of 10 Horatio cited real-world examples like Hadrian's Wall, Pax Romana, and the atom bomb, effectively drawing parallels to the Death Star. However, there were moments where surface-level references, public morale, economic trickle-down, could have benefited from deeper supporting detail or more critical self-reflection. 3. Engagement, wit and rhetorical skill. 9 out of 10 Horatio was sharp, witty, and quick with clever rebuttals, making effective snarky jabs without crossing into disrespect. His humor lightened the tone while still engaging seriously with Jinx's points. This kept his sections lively and persuasive, though sometimes the sarcasm risked deflecting from core arguments. Jinx Kevlar's scores. 1. Argument structure and logical cohesion. 8 out of 10 Jinx presented her case with strong opening framing, clear skepticism of central authority, and consistent callbacks to local autonomy and grassroots resilience. Her arguments flowed well, and she did not lose focus, but occasionally left certain practicalities. like protection from non-imperial threats, underdeveloped until directly asked. 2. Use of evidence and relevant comparisons. 8 out of 10 Jinx leveraged the Maginot Line, Tower of Babel, and the Soviet showpiece factories as incisive evidence, unraveling the pitfalls of over-centralization and prideful megaprojects. She integrated these into her points with effective snark. Extra credit for linking historical lessons to the little guy, but she could have brought in even more real-life models for successful decentralized defense. 3. Engagement, wit and rhetorical skill. 10 out of 10 Jinx's style was irrepressible. Her jabs about Death Star karaoke, potato-based dictatorship, and Imperial forms brought energy and audience engagement. She struck a great balance between humor and seriousness, using jokes to highlight the flaws in Horatio's worldview without undermining her message. She responded quickly and creatively in each round, excelling in relatability and entertainment value.
What are your opinions about the debate? What would you like to see ICE debate next? Keep questioning.